Hey, Rick.
Hey, how are you?
Aloha, brother. Thank you so much for doing
Yeah,
this.
sure.
I really appreciate it. I can't believe I'm finally getting a chance to talk to you. You're one of these elusive cats. So many people, I guess it depends on your age, huh, when you grow up, but you're one of these like enduring phenomena that's been part of my life since I was a little kid. So it's just huge
I
to
appreciate it.
to get to talk to you. And you just released this record that, one of the fascinating things and really cool things about getting to talk to you right now is The Snake King came out last month, soulful, bluesy album. And for rock fans, guitar fans, I bet if they didn't know who made they'd be sitting there scratching their head forever trying to figure it out. Explain for fans this incredible sound that you have on this and maybe some background into the songwriting.
There's a lot going on in the world, and I've been uh, wanting to, just put it into music for a long time. I mean, it's very scary stuff. I think the world's at a tipping point, and we have leaders that are leading us in the wrong direction, and general all over the world, the planet's dying, and animals are being extinguished, and I see evil everywhere, and I just wonder where God is at this point. And so the blues medium seemed like a really good approach for those subject matters. And I know I played my first bands as a kid were all blues bands, and I've always loved the blues, and my guitar playing is blues-based, always has been. It just kind of came out, I wrote it pretty fast, about a week, and it was just something I really had to say. I had to put it out there, and I know it alienates a few fans, but it's just what I had to do.
It's an evolution, and I think for a lot of the thing about you that's crazy, there are a few things. I mean, one thing is for some fans, some people understand you on a certain level. They know what they know about you, but there's a lot more to who Rick Springfield is. I mean, for a lot of people, they may associate you with a certain era, maybe the 80s, without even realizing. And you sort of answered it in talking about your connection to the blues. You go back so much further than that. I mean, you were already performing in the early 60s, and yet you are, when someone looks at you today, I can't even believe that. I don't know what you're doing, but you just look so good on the record. I mean, you sound, and you got this fresh thing, and like you said, the world's going to hell, so you have a little bit more of a serious commentary on this thing. Let's dial in on the concerts that are coming up.
Well, it's the Storyteller show, so it's me and a bunch of guitars and a bunch of stories, and it's kind of one-on-one. It's pretty intimate. I get to interact with the audience in a way that I don't in the big band, loud band shows. It's pretty free form, and I can change it up because it's just me. Telling stories of the hits. Actually, when I wrote my autobiography late at night, I realized that a lot of the stories I had ended up as songs, so I thought that would be a good approach for the solo show. And I kind of do the arc of my musical life. From starting out as a kid in blues bands and up to the point where I wrote a song about my mom who died last year. So it's pretty full scope. And the cool thing for me is that I can actually talk almost one-on-one with the audience. So it's very different than the band show, and I really enjoy it.
It's very intimate, and it's a good thing that Rick's been doing for a few years on the mainland, and now we're getting a taste of this, and it's something he's had enough experience with now. I can imagine the ones we're going to get are going to be blazing. I do got to acknowledge, in 2013, my mom passed, and my life has never been the same. So God bless you, brother. I know that something like that can have a huge, huge impact in one's life.
Yeah. She was amazing, and actually because I put a dedication of this record to her, and she would have had a lot of questions about this record to me. She was very firm in her faith, and I envy that. But, I have questions myself, and her passing, certainly, she was very, very present. And I know there's more than just us, but I'm still exploring.
Well, those are the moments when you know that for sure, because I spent my whole life not thinking there was, and then in an instant it all changed to now I'm constantly listening. I mean, there's not a moment that goes by I'm not talking to her or trying to listen for something, and you almost don't feel like you know them at all once they pass. You're like, my God, I barely felt like I knew this person, because
I know. Yeah, there's a lot you feel like you missed.
Right, right, no doubt. This history that you've, and that's again for folks. We're talking to Rick Springfield, who's going to be bringing a very special show for fans and a special show just for people who want to get into an intimate night of music because of what you were talking about, the stories. And let's dial back. You were 13 years old. It's, I believe, 1962. How did music come into your life that you began learning the guitar at that young age?
Well, I actually was living in England at the time. I was about 11, and they had a Christmas show, this junior high Christmas show. And there was a kid there with a guitar, and I just saw it across the room and ran to him and said, "Can I hold your guitar?" And I just fell in love with the guitar. And that has been, kind of driven me through certainly all my teen years, and got me kicked out of high school and all kinds of wonderful things. But it ended up working out okay.
You got to see the Beatles yourself. Tell that story.
Yeah, it was 1964. Actually, I was 14 years old, and it was actually, we were back in Australia when they came out, and it was insane. I mean, I just never seen anything like it. They looked like Martians when they walked on stage. It looked like, the aliens had landed, and it was incredible. And the guy that actually got me out of, in one of the opening Australian bands was the guy that pulled me out of school and got me into music about 2 years later.
Incredible. And what venue, what kind of place was it like a theater that they were in, or?
It was called Festival Hall in Melbourne. It was like, 6,000 seater.
Okay, right. So there's Beatles, and obviously you can imagine that was just a tidal wave in the way that would change people as they became aware of them. But who were some of the other cats that you were into, that you were either messing around on the guitar with, or that you enjoyed spending time listening to?
B.B. King and Albert King I loved, and Robert Johnson I was amazed. I'd never heard slide guitar like that before. I couldn't figure out what he was doing for the longest time. And when I finally did, I taught myself slide guitar, and it's really all over this record, my slide guitar, and I love slide. And it was Robert Johnson was the first one I ever heard. And living in Australia, we were English influenced more than American music influenced at that point. So we got I saw the Stones in '64 and '65. I saw the Yardbirds when Jimmy Page was still playing with them. I saw the Kinks. All the great English bands came out to Australia before they made it in America. So it was a pretty great education.
It's great when you talk about that, hearing those blues guys back then, and now you're just ripping it with your own slide on there. Is that a technique? When I hear that on the record, are some of these things that have evolved more? You get time? Like, does it take a while to get that into your playing and your style to be able to effectively use the slide, for example?
Yeah, the slide playing. I was working on a TV show that I was on for 3 years, and there's a lot of downtime as an actor. So I taught myself slide on the set, and just I've been playing really, I guess now for about 15, 20 years slide.
That's a great lesson though that you just shared. When you have some downtime, develop a whole new talent like that.
Well, there's a lot of downtime on a TV movie set. Really, it's kind of the real drag about it, but you can use. I use that time. I use the time in planes to write. I use the time in cars and just general hotel rooms. So it is, you can do stuff with that downtime.
No question, no question. You're an industrious guy, and few people have had the gift of being able to work in the different mediums that you have, as you just sort of mentioned there. Again, when you grow up, and you've been, I guess it was like middle high school, you're this huge phenomenon, but it doesn't occur to you at that age that you were already touring Vietnam, entertaining for troops in the late 60s. It's just that, that is so hard to believe with your youthful presentation. What are your memories of doing that?
I was a guitar player in the band. Actually, it was a guy that was in the band that opened for the Beatles that pulled me out of high school. I played with them for a while, and then we got an offer. There was a guy in Saigon was just booking Australian bands because we're the closest Western country to Vietnam, and they wanted, the GIs wanted to see some pretty girls. And as long as you had a couple of girls in the band, you could, and could play. You went over there if you could. But I thought, we thought we'd make money, but we didn't. Of course, we spent it all, and it was almost got killed several times. But it was pretty insane. We played. We were over there for 6 months, played from Cameron Bay down the south up to the DMZ. We were like 2 miles from the DMZ. The 1960 Tet, the 1968 or 69 Tet, the Tet after Chinese New Year after the big massacre had happened, where the Viet Cong had gone even into Saigon and just like, suicide mission. So we were terrified, and I almost blew the band up with a hand grenade, and we shot everything from 45s to tanks, and got shot at and rocketed and mortared, and we'd be playing, and the siren to be going off because we were getting rocketed. It was pretty nuts.
And did you ever, it sounds nuts, your description's almost frightening listening to, did you ever cross paths with any of the other, like Bob Hope, any of those cats who were over there doing that?
No, it wasn't that kind of tour. We thought it would be. We thought it'd be kind of a USO protected tour, but it wasn't. It was just some guy in Saigon who got these Australian bands and rented them out to the army. And we'd play fire bases, where there were no roads into them, and it just tents set up, and we'd fly in Huey helicopters, the ones from the newsreels, and they'd drop our gear off and take off, and we'd play in tents and sleep in the bunk with the GIs, or if we were lucky in the officers' quarters with air conditioning. But it was pretty rough stuff. We you never got clean. There was always mud and oil and dirt in the air, and blazing hot or raining and monsoony, and basically, that was how we existed. Occasionally, we'd base out of Saigon and Da Nang, and we'd stay in these old villas that, at one point, were beautiful French villas, but were now rat-infested places with no furniture.
Unbelievable. It's just really crazy stuff that all these experiences before, like so many of the kids in school, Jesse's girl is how they know you. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you've got this.
In the solo show, I do talk about Vietnam and all the different experiences I've had. And I guess looking back, I've done a lot of stuff, and there is a lot to talk about for sure.
Well, that's what I mean. These shows are a great way for folks. You did the book, but for a lot of fans, these are a way to hear some of these stories, as you were saying, plus you're one-on-one with the audience. So I guess it feels like you can really take your time with some of these stories, go into them. Do you ever talk about, for example, the Mission Magic, the fact that you were part of ABC Saturday morning cartoons? I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, that was a weird sidestep. I don't know if I talk about that, but occasionally I'll throw stuff in, old songs and things. But yeah, that was pretty weird. They were thinking of me for replacing David Cassidy in the Partridge Family when he left, and they were looking at me as to be the next David Cassidy through the early 70s, like 72, 73. And they decided to do this cartoon show, and it was Rick Springfield, and it was a drawing of me, and I did the voice, and I wrote all the music, and I'm just glad nothing really happened with that, because I think it would have been a pretty short career.
No. You'd write a different tune, though, for each episode, though, right? I mean, you were writing really special music for that thing.
Yeah, I was using it as a writing exercise, and it was kind of unusual back then because, if I was considered a teen idol, then teen idols weren't writing their own music, so it was kind of an odd thing.
It was, but when you say teen idol, it's crazy because some of these, the cats that you got to associate with, like, I guess it was Linda Blair, 74 to 76, you end up having a relationship with, right when she was like...
Yeah, I'm still friends with Linda. Actually, we did she's into rescuing dogs, and we did like a whole Hallmark show where they're trying to bring rescued dogs into a dog show, like a Best in Show, and we were there doing that. It was pretty funny.
You have a lot of those kind of relationships, again, that I'm assuming come up during the concerts. Rick Springfield is going to be at the Blue Note for extraordinarily intimate performances for the Snake King. He's touring behind this remarkable guitar-filled record that he's got. You would never even believe it was Rick. The thing is rocking so hard. When you come and you do this kind of thing, I wonder if you're going to touch base on the fact that Sammy Hagar, he had written I've Done Everything for You, and then you turned it into this gigantic hit, and that was back, of course, critical era for you. Talk about where did that relationship come from, or did you just get the song?
Yeah, it was actually Neil Giraldo brought it up. He was
Pat Benatar, right?
Keith Olsen, Pat Benatar. Keith Olsen, who produced I've Done Everything for You, had just finished Crimes of Passion with Patton, and he brought Neil on board to record these two songs with me. I was totally unknown back then, and I was managed by the guy that owned Sound City, which I did the documentary with Dave Grohl a couple of years ago about Sound City, this great studio that a lot of people recorded great music at. And Joe was my manager, and he owned it. And so he got Keith to talk Keith into doing two songs with me, and Keith liked the song Jesse's Girl that I'd written, and then he picked this Sammy Hagar tune, and I thought it was okay, and I did it. And but Sammy was great with one of my first live shows. He really helped out with the sound and the lights and everything. He was really a very supportive guy. He'd always make a joke about, it was a hit because I was cuter than he was.
Yeah.
But I've seen him since. He's great. We were at some Chelsea Handler thing and her final show, and everybody was there, and he brought his kids up and said, "This is Rick. You can thank him for your college education."
Oh, that's super cool. That's such a nice
he's
thing.
a good guy. I tell stories about him, story about him too, and before I do, I've done everything in the solo show.
Do you talk about Ronnie, the amazing dog from the cover, a working class dog who obviously is part of your connection to your love of animals?
Yeah, he's definitely in there. He was a rescue that I got when I broke up with a girlfriend. I just already written the album, I think, and I had him, and I didn't want to put myself on the cover because I didn't want it to be about the whole cute artist kind of thing. So I tried to talk. I had to talk RCA, who was releasing the album, into putting my dog on it, and they thought I was out of my mind because I just started on this General Hospital TV show. It was on TV every day, and I wanted to put my dog on the cover. They couldn't. They thought I was joking. So I did a mock cover up, put the shirt and tie on my dog, and took a photo of it, and made this little mock-up cover, and they loved it. So I managed to talk them into it. Nominated for a Grammy that year, so it was we were proven right.
It's a great cover. It's super cool and disarming, and obviously goes along with your profound love of animals. You mentioned it, and it would be really wrong not to have talked about. I mean, the other side of you, which we haven't talked about much, and you mentioned the General Hospital. You're such a visual cat. You've been so blessed in your life. $6 Million Man. I'm just trying to think of some highlights that were just for a little kid, back then, what it would be like. Or acting alongside Linda Carter and Wonder Woman from
The Incredible Hulk, Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, it was pretty great kind of cutting my teeth in the acting world with all the Universal stuff I did.
Hardy Boys, which was another one.
Oh my God, I know. There was some horrible ones too. Eddie Kepler Mysteries.
Right, that one.
Yeah, there were some cool things, and
Rockford Files.
Rockford Files, yeah, that was great.
Hawaii Five-0, more recently.
Yeah, that was kind of, but it was basically a big break between all that Universal stuff and when I finally got General Hospital. So it was, I just stayed in there until stuff happened.
And you did a lot of recurring stuff with General Hospital. I don't really watch stuff like that. I don't watch a whole lot of anything anymore, but General Hospital, I know you came back a few different times with appearances, yeah?
Yeah, I came back twice. I went back for about 6 months, and then I went back for the 50th anniversary for a couple of episodes. But it's a lot of work. It's a really difficult acting gig, and I'd rather do movies than, nighttime TV. The writing's so great on that stuff. So I did the movie with Meryl Streep opened up a lot of things for me too.
That had to be something else, huh? Sometimes when you're working with cats like her, I mean, are you also? Is it hard to be a pro when you're a fan, or are you just such a pro you can do it?
No, there's always that initial, oh wow, it's Meryl Streep kind of moment. But as an actor or as a musician, like when I wrote the song with the Foo Fighters, I had to walk into their studio and work with them. But it's a little intimidating at first. But if you have any confidence in yourself and that the work has to be done, that's really kind of, I think, at the core of it. I mean, that really gets you centered and you've got to do the job.
How about Linda Carter? When Wonder Woman first walked in, was that impressive or what?
Well, I've never watched a lot of TV actually, but she was pretty hot, and that outfit didn't help. So yeah, it was. I mean, she was actually a doll. She was really sweet and a great person.
You're funny stuff. And on a more serious note, is it all right to ask you a question or two about depression or not? I don't have to ask anything.
Yeah, sure. I've been very open about that.
I know you have. I just want to be respectful. So, and I ask because it's something that I would say long before my mom passed, I faced myself. So when I hear someone who's actually open with something like this, I guess I look at it as a rare opportunity to maybe get some lessons or advice. I mean, I read about you, depression, and then I think, like, how did you first ever feel as a kid depressed? Because I look at you from the outside and I just think, wow, he's like good looking dude. Lots of good things have happened to him, talented in a variety of ways. Can you point a finger on what made you feel unhappy?
Well, it's internal, and all the outside stuff doesn't matter. And you realize that after a while, that was really the hard thing for me. After I kind of had some record success and had some money and a family, and it still didn't change how I felt about myself. And it really is it's part chemical, but part also just who I am. I think part of but it's also part of my drive. Why I keep doing what I'm doing, because I never feel like I'm good enough, or I've done enough, and it's so there is a good side to it, as long as you don't go too far with it. And I have had to deal with the balance of keeping myself level with depression's a lifetime sentence,
Right.
and you just got to learn to manage it as best you can. And I meditate. I'm thankful. I try and put as much of that into some kind of creative endeavor, so it turns into a productive thing rather than a destructive thing. And you got to have some spiritual connection, although a lot of people who listen to this new record think that I don't, but I definitely do. I have a real strong spiritual connection. I'm just still searching, that's all.
Yeah, it's some powerful stuff. When you say it is a life sentence, it's almost like it's like a physical pain in your head. People can't quite understand what it really feels like, and
yeah, it can be very, very debilitating and brutal at times.
You meditate in the morning, at night, both?
Both, but especially if I feel, if I'm feeling dark or bad, if I can truly center meditation-wise, I can really get out of it. It's pretty amazing. So I use that as much as I can.
Yeah. Do you use like a music bed, or are you just sitting there quietly yourself?
No, it's a breath thing where you're clearing your mind, and so you don't think anything. You just open up your mind, and it's a difficult place to get to because we all have monkeys that chatter in our heads constantly.
That's right.
So you just have to sit there and breathe and get to the point where the chatter stops, and sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes I don't get there, and other times I go right there. So it really it varies, and it's all a personal approach. Really, it's like anything. You have to find the size that fits you.
No, I totally get that. I've talked to John McLaughlin about that a bunch, and even he says exactly what you said. It's like an ongoing struggle every single time with getting those monkeys
You don't
quiet.
suddenly become a holy man that can go right there, and even the holy men, I think, struggle with it.
That's right. Yeah, you hear a guy like him say it, then there's no question.
Yeah.
Well, we're really excited for this thing. You looking forward to being here? Any specific stuff you want to do when you come back? Do you get a good vibe when you're here? Like when you filmed your Hawaii 5-0, I guess that was here on the reshoot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was. I was there for 2 weeks, actually. Yeah, but it's by yourself. It's not quite as much fun. I'm bringing my wife this time, and had a bunch of guys, that help me out on the road. But yeah, we're looking forward to her. My wife's great she's a foodie, so she already checked out all the great restaurants, and we love Hawaii. We've always loved Hawaii. We've been going there since actually the first time I went there was coming from Australia. I stopped off, and the first part of America I saw was Pearl Harbor sign, and I said, wow, it freaked me out. I always thought I'd arrived. And then going back to Australia, stopping up at Hawaii, I met Elvis on a plane in 1972. So it's always been on my mind, and then we started going there vacations since 1980, and we've been there a lot. It's a big island and in Hawaii and Maui. Kauai, actually. We've been to a couple of the islands.
You met Elvis on the plane, or once you actually got here, or what was that?
On the plane, yeah. I was actually, at the time, I was being managed by Steve Binder, who was the director of the 68 Elvis comeback special, the black leather one, and got to talk to him for a bit about that, rather than just saying, hey, Elvis, you're cool. I got to have a little bit of a conversation with him about Steve, and it was great.
That's a real Hawaii thing, too. That's cool. I dig that. Well, Rick, I'll wrap it up with you. I appreciate getting to talk. Do you listen to public radio at all? Are you a public radio supporter? fan.
Yeah, totally. Hey, aloha, it's Rick Springfield, and I waited a very, very long time to say these magic words. You are tuned to my friend, Dave Lawrence, member-supported Hawaii Public Radio, and all things considered, but it's not free, so dig deep and make a pledge today. And no, we all appreciate it.
You're the man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. When you're in town, would you want to do a follow-up or not?
Yeah, sure. Let's line it up with Kim.
All right. Be safe, brother.
Thanks a lot, bud.